All right, here we go.
Let's rock and roll.
All right, we must be ready to rock, fired up.
We must be. We are definitely ready to rock. It is July 21st, 2022. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, and we are about to present to you episode 601.
601.
Have you recovered from all the fanfare and celebrations we did for 600?
There's a small parade on my street here. Yeah.
That's right. There is a very small parade. Not much to do. Just churning along, being consistent, checking boxes, and hurrying slowly. That's what we have to call, or as you like to call, the slow burn. And we hope most of you are slowly burning anyway, because it is so freaking hot right now. We're looking at least here in Overland Park, we're looking at 102 today, then coupled with 103, and then bringing up the rear. Little 104 on Saturday. It's brutal. So most of you are getting on with your slow burn anyway. But your first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a few options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Your time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We'll cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps. We also do a lot of race previews. For the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life as human beings, but also coaches and athletes ourselves. We'd also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I both work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes looking at their very first 5K or even sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to Kona, at least for this year, and everywhere in between. I'll riff on that when we get started in the podcast. But oftentimes we'll use the communication and feedback loop we have with them to drive the discussion of the day. And then we'll also frequently peruse and take the pulse of our Facebook group. You can always search the Iron group, answer one simple question, we'll let you right in. A lot of great people in there. A lot of awesome resources, and things are getting lively. It's a lively bunch the last few days, I've noticed, with a lot of questions and people getting into the sport, people projecting long term and having questions, and it's a great resource. A lot of awesome people in there that are willing to lend you a helping hand. But as with all things in life, with our podcast, other podcasts, things you read, and all the different types of media that you consume it with a filter, your own filter. Take the journey. It's your journey, while, requesting and harvesting, bits and pieces of information from, people that are qualified, but also, billions of people that are unqualified, because that's the plan that we live on. Make sure you just take it, take bits and pieces. And if we can, give you one piece of advice, it's do whatever feels right. Not what's suggested, but what feels right. And if it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. There's a lot of great people in there. Oftentimes we'll go in there and do like a Q&A session. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads. We do have an agenda, and that is to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah. Take care of yourself first, and then you're a better person for everybody.
Always.
Man, it's hot out, and I guess this is the weekend that I've decided to head to Madison to ride the loops. And I guess some people up there, C26 people, are going to be connecting up there at the bike shop at 7 a.m. on Saturday. So if you're on, come on in. And we were just kind of talking about that, how cool it is to have people to do stuff with and be connected in this world and connected in your life with everything. But I mean, training, of course, becomes the lonely road a lot of times. And this kind of, we're sort of talking about how, we want to eat right and hydrate right and sleep right and do all that other kind of stuff. But it's almost like that connection piece sort of is the energy we need more than anything. And I think that's the hard part these days for some reason, because of, I think, the tendency to isolate and do our own thing and sort of like figure it out on our own, that kind of thing. There's a million, I could, you spend like, we've got like a broken fence here. I could probably spend 24 hours trying to figure out how to do it. But then my neighbor buddy, he's like, I'll just do it. I'm like, oh, really? okay, why don't you just do it then? Like you just don't trust
we all need
people to
like
help
that.
sometimes. What's that?
I said, yeah, we all need neighbors like that.
I know, but you know what I'm saying? It's like we want everything's available to be able to do it on our own, and we just fill our cup so heavy that we never, it's like there's so much time in the day and so much energy that we can play with, and eventually it always catches us. And I just see that a lot. I feel like people work so hard and they've got so many things going on in life, and I felt it this week, man. I was like, I had a great ride on Tuesday and went up and started doing all this stuff, and I just got really wore out. So I had to take a couple of days off, man. That's just how it's rolling for me right now.
I think one of the biggest reasons, and this is super common in triathletes and people, especially like, motivated, high functioning, highly motivated type A, and again, especially triathletes, is that we feel like it's this like, this proud medal of honor that we wear that is like, we're independent, we don't need any help, we are tough, we can handle it, and one of the biggest weaknesses in life is the inability to feel confident enough to ask questions. Because for some reason, like, it's like we don't want to be seen as weak or unknowledgeable, or we can't do things on our own, or I didn't want to bother you because I'm like, listen, doing it right is number one, right? And then doing it right the right way so you don't have to do it over again is the second best thing. Like, there are plenty of things in life that I had there's that phrase like, I know just enough to be dangerous, right? Mm-hmm. That's me and a lot of things in life. That's why I take my bike to a bike shop, because I know just enough to try to fix a problem and create 6 more. Right. And so like, there's like the other day I walked across the street to ask our neighbor across the street a question about our house, because the way houses are built in the Midwest are a lot different than what I'm ever used to it happening like in Tennessee. Like, they got different things. The basement, they got, water quality systems and softeners and all these kind of things that, like, I'm like, I don't even know what these things do. What should I be looking for? And my first thought was like, yeah, I think I'll just, kind of like, look it up and Google it. But that's totally different than like asking someone like, face to face, one-on-one, walk me through it. And I think what it does is it sends a few messages. One, and this is so true with again, with all things life. When you and I we talked a lot off air about connecting. And I think one of the best things we can do to connect with ourselves is to be aggressive in learning. And by doing that, you have to admit when you don't know something, right? Or in that it takes a lot of courage for a lot of people, and humility to ask for help, right? Like to physically, or to make a specific move, or to call somebody, or to text somebody, or to walk over next door, or whatever. It's like, hey, dude, I got no idea what I'm doing here. You mind helping me out? And I think people would be shocked to find like most people are willing to like genuinely help you, and they actually probably like teaching you about it and connecting, because there are so many gaps in life now where we don't have to connect. Like, I'll just YouTube it. I learned more in like this 10-minute conversation than I probably could have learned in 5 hours of YouTube videos. And I just think it's important, especially in life where, again, we always talk about connection, right? And I think when people hear the word connection, they think, oh, I need a bigger community. I need a bigger team. I need a bigger club, or whatever it is, or either people around you. And yes, that's one form of connection, right? Connection versus connection with community, right? We're only, there's a quote, it's like, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. Mm-hmm. It's like you are pretty much the sum of your 5 closest friends. But connecting with yourself too, I think, is the most important piece that people continuously neglect. And I think that triathletes specifically, when we choose to, when we have the inability or the humility, or, we lack being vulnerable, or doing things that, allow us to, maybe put ourselves in a softer spot. What we do is we overcommit, right? Before we went on air, it's like, when things open up in life, people overcommit, and triathletes are number one, I think, when it comes to overcommitting with races, with distances of race, and with frequency of races, and with training. And what they do is we're usually filling something. We're trying to fill a hole, right? We don't want to connect with ourselves, because that's kind of scary. So instead of having idle time, what I will do is I will find an event in the future to focus on, And then I will continue to pile on hours within that time frame to take away from what I should be focusing on, which is the connection with myself. And then in the midst of that connection with myself, quote unquote connection, right? Which basically also means I'm going to stress myself out to the max. My sole focus is going to be on triathlon, and I'm going to neglect, my depression, my anxiety, my unhappiness, not being social, not meeting people, my fear of whatever it is. And I'm just going to focus on this event that's 300 days away. And then doing that, I'm going to obsess about getting enough some bike and run time in. And then I'm also not going to feel good about the amount of time and the amount of work I've done. And so I'm going to freak out and be anxious. Wait a minute. I'm right back to where I started, right? I was doing this to not feel these things. But what I've done is I've actually doubled down on the anxiety or depression or, the denial, which is a frequent one, or, trying to shove things down and not deal with them. All you did was replace things, right? You have to have the availability and not overcommitting, but connecting to yourself. And then that confidence allows you the opportunity to connect with other people, right? And like you were saying, going up to Madison this weekend, there's connecting with just C26 people. We weren't supposed to go through life alone, right? No one's supposed to go through life alone. It's not fun to do alone. There's another quote. It's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? Because you can go further and farther with other people and so a support system. But triathletes, again, in the world we live in now, where you can do everything alone, and you can say, well, I'm going to go to a group meetup in Zwift. I'm like, what? I get it. There's probably some benefit there, and you can smash it. But there is no substitute for actual one-on-one human connection, and then what that asks of you in return to find that physical piece. And I do. I just think we always harp, and I know a lot of times we don't talk about triathlon, we don't talk about data, we don't talk about numbers, some bike and run specifics, but the health of the athlete starts with the health of the human. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's something that triathletes specifically love to ignore, because we choose one thing and replace it with another. And I just think there's a lot of things we can do to help each other out, specifically be better athletes, but first be better humans.
Yeah. And you're so right, dude. Like my ride the other night, and I always try to keep this in perspective as to where we've talked about many times, train to what you're at, train to your current fitness level and things like that. And then as a guy who's like trying to test whether or not he can get ready for Ironman in a shortish period of time, I got into that, and, it was sort of this 5-minute big gear multiples, of 5 minutes. And I just kind of slowly eased into it, and I thought I was well within myself. And then I got done. I felt pretty good, but I think it burnt me up, because you think, we talk about, somebody with 10 to 15 hour training week or whatever, and that's like 15 hours. But the reality of it is, it's a half hour before, it's a half hour after. I mean, it can be like almost 25 or 30 hours of getting ready and, thinking about it and psychological, so it's a pretty huge weight, even though you think, all right, I only have an hour and 30 minutes tonight, but you got to get ready. You got to be hydrating ahead of time. It's always on the mind. So, right. It's like adding a whole nother, job or whatever you want to call it. And I do think you have to like really be careful of that. And, as coaches, we see it all the time. It's like, things can be going along great, and then next thing you know, they just go haywire. And why? And then how do you backtrack and figure out all that stuff? It's like one of the things I thought for sure was that you get caught up in life, right? You're doing work, and everything's kind of driving you, and your adrenals are flying, and it's just carrying you, and you're drinking a bunch of coffee and shit. And the next thing you know, you have a hard workout, and then the next day you're like, whoa, the last week before that really kind of hit you. So it's really important, Amanda, to kind of do and the things that are right for you in the moment, and be on top of it, because they just don't show up right away sometimes. I can't tell how many times I've seen people say, I was just dehydrated. I hadn't been hydrated in the last 3 days, and then they go in and do a hard workout or whatever, and then it just kind of bags you down. But yeah, man, this connection piece is so huge, and I think a lot of times, we talk about this podcast and our connection and how we get to talk all the time and back and forth about this kind of stuff. And I don't think a lot of people obviously get to do that. So it's nice to just sort of get it out there. And triathlon type A people just always driving and whatever. And yeah, we could talk about that all you want, but man, it doesn't, like it's all tied to one number a lot of times. It's race time, right? Everybody wants to get that thing down. And it's just such a weird thing to think about, really, when you kind of put it in perspective like this. And because you can do everything you want, but if you're not prepared, like mentally and aside from physically being in shape, but just like your whole lifestyle and everything, you could go out and not even try. Because I think I've talked about it. My best Ironman, I think, is when I was sick. I wasn't really even thinking about it, and I was kind of coming through it, and I ended up feeling good that day, and I didn't even try, and it ended up being my best. So it's just a weird thing to put these upper limits on yourself, all the time, all day, every day, So I think we just need to, take a step back sometime and really do what feels good. And like, I love what you're saying earlier, something about stepping away and doing something different during the week or whatever, just to get your mind off of that continual grind, which is always there.
And especially how you ended it. I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago, and the podcast host was asking this like super brilliant, like mathematician thing or guy, and he was like, he's like, when do you figure out your best work? When you're the most creative? And it was like, what's the most important thing you can do to, figure things out or to get new ideas? And he said, do nothing. He said, we fill our lives so much with responsibilities, demands, stress. We fill our lives continuously for a variety of reasons, right? Because our job is demanding, our family is demanding, our relationships demanding. We have hobbies, right? For us, it's triathlon is demanding. We don't even know what's important to us anymore or know what we love doing because we're so damn busy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so I make a point at least once a day to do nothing. And then what happens is it clears my plate. It clears my kind of like, it's like his mental palate. And I start to think about what the things in life that are the most important to me. And then I start to think about other things. And that's when I can figure out like the best route for me to choose, because I've distanced myself from like the day-to-day that, the everyone's favorite, word to use, back to the grind, man. What?
Yeah, I know.
I still don't understand. Like the nothing fun there's nothing fun sounding about grinding. Why back to smooth sailing, brother? Like, why can't it be that? Like,
yeah.
But we do. And again, triathletes continuously overcommit. Like I was joking on our Zoom call yesterday about somebody was asking about 2023 race planning, and they were like, when do you want to hear about our 2023 race plans? I'm like, not right now, not till November. But let's be honest. Here's how it usually goes. You guys send me a screenshot of your active.com receipt that's non-refundable that you just spent $800 on, and you send it to me and you say, what do you think, coach? I'm like, what do you mean what do I think? Like, you've already committed.
Yeah.
So now it's my job to get you through it. And we overcommit, and we fill every waking minute and hour of our day with something. And then we wonder why we're not happy, or we wonder why we're so stressed, or we wonder why we can't keep up. And then, like even you said, we were running late in the podcast today because Hayden was at his well check at the doctor. And I was like, let's do 12. And you're like, hey man, let's do 12:30. Why, why do we need to rush life?
Yeah.
I was like, I had 30 minutes, but we always feel like we have to do it and do it now. Right. And get it done quickly. And we always feel behind. And again, like we should choose things in life that remove stress. Don't add it. And you can't even see a clear picture of what you want to do or who you want to be in life if you're working 60 hours a week, you're only sleeping 5 hours a night, and you're filling every other minute of your day with something scheduled that has to be a demand or responsibility or keeping up with the Joneses, like free time is pretty freaking awesome. That was like something that my mom really kind of like inadvertently, but she's a mom, so it was totally on point. She knew what she was doing. But we were talking about the summertime and kids, and she was like, kids need the summertime more than you think. They don't need camps every day. They legit need free time to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
To do nothing. To veg out, to watch TV, to relax, to have fun, to unwind, because there's so much asked of them once you start the school year. I was like, man, that's so true. Because over the course of the summer, I'm like kind of going back and forth as a parent. I'm like, all right, what's too much screen time? What's, playing, watching Netflix or Disney or whatever it is versus getting out and exercising and doing stuff. And I do think like the first few weeks we were here, I tried to keep him so busy because I didn't want him to like, veg out too much that it was actually counterproductive, that he like got burnt out. He was doing too much. He got overtired. And I genuinely think like we just made a huge mistake by doing that. And I was like, yeah, actually, like you need time to unwind and think about nothing. Like, what you always tell kids, like, they have to have a screen in front of them all the time or they get bored. But what they need is just, freedom to be creative, right? To ask questions, to figure things out. And I think as adults, we've totally left that, right? Because it makes us sound lazy, right? Like you always have athletes that are like, hey, I gotta do an Ironman this year. I don't know what it's like to not do one. I won't consider myself a triathlete, but don't do an Ironman this year or a 70.3 or whatever it is. And you're like, there's so much else out there. But if you're so close to it, you can't see anything else, right? And usually you need someone else or your coach or even like me, like there were multiple times this morning on training, because again, like this is someone on top of maybe not, it's like that you just have to tell people like you're so close to, and this is what usually happens. The closer an athlete is to something like where they can't see anything else, the more like massive swings in mood happens. I mean, I am on fire. I'm buying a new bike. I'm doing 2 Ironmans next year. This is incredible. And then the next day it's, people suck, man. I hate triathlon. I hate my life. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
What honestly could have happened in the last 24 hours that caused that much of a pendulum swing in your mood, right? And the kind of like the underlying denominator, the common denominator for most people is that their life is so filled and there's so much expectation, behind fulfilling everything with life, within training, and that it's so demanding, you have to do it. Then when they miss out on it, they either hate themselves because they missed an hour or they missed a session, right? Which is the total opposite of why we do this. Or they do it so much, they've caused so much stress, they get more tired. And again, we're right back to where we got. Like there has to be this happy medium, right? To where we're creating a sense of health and wellness, and we're removing stress and we're being healthy and we're remembering like this is a part of our life. It is not our life, right? And that is a reminder we all need, right? All the time. Like you and I are reminded of it daily, I think it's very interesting. Like people, when they think of triathlon coaches or whatever, they think just about data and numbers and races and PRs and podiums and like, oh, your job's super cool, man. I love it. I'm like, I've gotten 4 texts this week. I'm in the middle of doing something. One was I was in the middle of doing something with Hayden. The other day I was doing something with lunch. Yesterday I just gotten home. It was, I think, just like going to sit down and relax for a second. And all 4 texts were of either my kid is super sick. I just found out my best friend died and passed away. Like you could be in the middle of doing something so fun and so gratifying. Your phone goes off. You take a peek at it, and somebody you coach and one of your friends has just learned of this like impossible thing. And you absorb it because it's a coach's job for themselves is to manage stress, right? And it's also a job to manage other athletes' stress. But it's a constant battle for coaches, for athletes, for us as humans to figure out and I guess ask ourselves daily, am I really managing stress, right? Am I cultivating an environment within myself as a person, as a human, as an athlete, as a spouse, as a professional, whatever it is, to limit stress so I can be the best version of myself that I can be? Because if I'm not doing that, I sure as hell can't be the best athlete I want to be. Because then all I'm all doing is adding stress on top of the stress I already have. And then what am I left with, right? Resentment, lack of sleep, irritability, isolation, loneliness, negative self-talk. You're like, because so many times, like, and there's frequently, I'm sure you've done it too, but I'll read an athlete's training peaks. I'm like, I don't want to hear you comment again or see you comment again for a week unless you have something nice to say about yourself, right? Because we've it's not. Listen, it's not. I'm just real hard on myself.
Yeah.
You're not. You're blatantly disrespectful and unloving to yourself, and all it's doing is framing how you see yourself, and other people are going to pick up on that, and you're going to become what you don't like, right? And most of the time, it's not even true. And it's just there's so much that we do again on a daily basis that is counterproductive to the sport in which we've decided to participate in, which is triathlon. It's how do we endure, not endure through pain and suffering, right?
Mm-hmm.
To endure to be better. And I just think it's a mind shift that we all need to be reminded of, that we've gotten lost. It's all about the grind, baby, and beat yesterday, and PR or ER, or work it out till you throw up. I'm like, what? Like, no offense, and I know a lot of people love David Goggins, but I'm like, that's one person. Most of you should not be doing anything he has to say. I'm sorry, like most of you shouldn't. Like, you should be treating yourself with respect and taking care of your body, holding yourself accountable, and being healthy. And if you're doing those things, you're ahead of 99% of people on this planet.
There's a guy named Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist. I've watched a lot of his videos. He's a kind of a sports psychologist type guy or something, but not really sports maybe, but he talks a lot about dopamine. And one of the things he always says is, like, the dopamine high is usually inverse, meaning the higher you go, the farther you're going to fall. And that's just kind of part of how we do things in life and how we get through certain situations or whatever. But that really just, and I think that when you're thinking about training and stuff like that, like you were saying, how things would be going great and they'll just be cooking, it's sort of like, I think at our core, a lot of us have this sort of addictive nature about things where, you're having a great ride and, we've talked about it a lot of times, stop while you're ahead, or whatever, because it is sort of like, whatever you're eating, the cookies or drinking or whatever it is, it's like you keep going and you're like, man, I feel awesome, but you don't want to stop. You want to keep going. So the higher you go, usually the farther you fall. So there's a real good argument for kind of staying in the middle ground with things. And I think that that's the one thing about training that I'm still not good at, but I always try to look at it from an outside perspective and tell people, it's like, yeah, that was good enough. Now just come back tomorrow and not like get overly high and overly low and up and down all the time. And it's just such a weird ride, It's sort of like you were saying about kids that need a break, in the summer. And because I think back to when I was in school, by the end of school, I just hated it. But by the end of summer, I really wanted to go back to school. You know what I mean? So it's almost like this, I miss it, and I think we need stuff like that. I got a guy right now training for Ironman California, and he's done several. He knows what he's getting into, but he's just been in a place, where he can't, didn't really want to train hard. I mean, it's just whatever. And I'm like, take a couple of weeks, dude, do what you want to do. And I know you've done that a lot too. And we've done that, and he's just kind of doing what he wants. And I can see the, excitement coming back, and, he's just not doing anything crazy or putting any kind of high goals in mind right now, but he's just trying to find the love for it and everything. And I think that is so powerful because we, I did a lot of online promotional work. I made a lot of videos back in the day, and they talked to, in art, there's this thing called negative space or white space and things like that, and how powerful it can be. And it's basically a simplicity situation where if you have a lot of negative space and you have one message over here, it really pops out and it becomes way more impactful than. But like we all struggle with this idea of like, well, that went great, so I need to add some more to it and add more and more. And the next thing you know, you got a big cluttered screen and nobody can read anything on it. It's just really difficult to walk away when something's working, And I think it's because like, man, I feel great today. So what else can I pile on to make myself feel even better? So I think that's sort of at the crux of a lot of things that we do, not just triathlon, but everything in life, whether it's decorating your house or anything. It's like, man, that looks really great. What else should we put over there?
Yep.
No.
And how much more can I drive myself into the ground while I do it?
Yeah.
It's like, I'd be really interested to hear what, like, I mean, I know from a coaching standpoint, like the average life cycle of a triathlon coach is not even 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Not even 2 years. And that's for a variety of reasons, but I'd love to hear or see like the average life cycle of a triathlete. I bet you it's 3 to 4 years, because you get a lot of bucket lists. I've been doing this for 20.
Mm-hmm.
20. And it's not because I'm, the best triathlete ever. I'm far from it. it's one of our athletes. We were texting back and forth, and he said, I've got just the right amount of athletic ability and stubbornness to be dangerous. And I was like, yeah, I feel that. I'm kind of right there with you.
Yeah.
But it's because I've taken breaks I've listened to myself when I've needed to take them. And I think, like, a week or two ago, I was talking about I suggested doing, like, the things we would change about triathlon. And one of them is have a requirement for people to do sprints and Olympics and 70.3s before they do a full. And it has nothing to do with athletic ability. It has nothing to do with physical preparedness. It's because what usually happens is people shove an Ironman level training into their life and think that's the acceptable, sustainable level for a human to have in triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? It's unsustainable.
Yeah.
And so once you start with that and you figure out this doesn't work for my life, you think immediately, well, I guess triathlon doesn't fit in my life. And then you quit, right? And you don't do jack, right? You put on 50 pounds, and you get overweight, you pick up, bowling, and you drink, Budweiser on Sundays. And you're like, man, because this is so much more, time helpful. It doesn't have to be like that, right? And the reason I think would be better to do that way is because figure out what's best for your life first. Sprint distance, Olympic distance, 70.3 distance. You can be a triathlete and just do sprints. Mm-hmm. You can be a runner and just do 5Ks. Like, there is no separate level of greatness for people that do Ironman, right? Or marathons or ultras. Like, ultras haven't gotten popular and Ironman hasn't gotten popular because the event itself. It's gotten popular because people are addicted to doing more, mm-hmm. and keeping up with the Joneses and always trying to add something and add something and add something. That's the reason. You can be a perfectly amazing, and to be totally honest with you, 10 times healthier athlete than driving your ass into the ground, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally every year, turning out 2 or 3 fulls because that's what you think the fucking status quo is. Most of you will be so much better off doing some sprints, some Olympics, maybe 1 and max 2 70.3s a year. Not only would you probably be healthier and stronger and faster, but God forbid you might be happier. Right? You might have extra time to do things you love. You might not be so resentful. You might not feel so much pressure. And again, you're probably going to be stronger and faster because you're not so worried about, doing a lot of so many like ill-advised long things. You'd be better off, but you don't. Most people jump straight in, and when we jump straight in, we go straight to the bottom. Right? When you cannonball into anything, you don't, dipping your toe in is like a sprint, right? Going, knee high is like an Olympic, and then going waist deep is a 7.3, and then cannonball your ass in is like going straight to the full. That's where we are right now with most things in life. I'm going all in, baby. I'm going to the full. Did a 5K, sign up for 2 fulls next year. I got this.
Come on. I know, yeah. It's like do it for fun too,
Right? No, dude. It's like we forget so much because we get so close, and there's so many opportunities for expectation and comparison and all these things that really does. We're just robbing ourselves willfully of the joy and the health and the physical and emotional and mental benefits that endurance sports can give us. And we choose to do that by making poor decisions or putting ourselves in a bad environment with different people. It's mind blowing sometimes when people can't step back far enough and be like, you know what? I'd actually be like super happy. Maybe just like 170 or maybe you know what? I might just run next year, do a couple half marathons, maybe do a full marathon. Maybe let's do 5Ks and 10Ks and maybe a sprint here and there, and just kind of enjoy life and not feel pressure, because life in general is already stressful enough as it is. Yeah. Way too much shit going on. Like it's way too stressful in life. So the goal each day should be, all right, how can I limit stress? And yes, triathlon and endurance sports and training and exercising is a way to deal with stress and deal with depression and deal with anxiety. Yes. But just like all things in life, only up to a point. Like only within moderation, right? Because 1 beer, totally fine. 2 beers, fine for most people. 3 beers, now we might be getting to a problem. 4 beers, now we're definitely have a problem. 5 beers, calling an Uber. 6 beers, you're probably really struggling. Like, so again, it's everything in moderation, right? And I think that's just saying, like most things in life, it's like, hey, there's not a single food out there that's intrinsically terrible for you. It's the overconsumption of a said food that's terrible for you, right? And that's what the triathletes are. Like you said earlier, that so we're all kind of I think have an addictive nature, right? Like we're all addicted to something. We're all addicted to our phones for sure.
Well,
we're all addicted to other
now.
things in life, in triathlon and endurance sports and training and adherence to workouts and stuff like that. Like that is definitely a certain level of, I think, addictive nature. What we need to be addicted to is overall, like self-love and wellness and health, just general health. Like there was a statistic I read a couple of weeks ago that was like, the average person can't even briskly walk 30 minutes a day. What? Like, and again, and I think the reason for that is we've just become like super lazy as a society, but 2 is that what people see online, right, or via commercials or marketing or consumption of media, different media outlets, is in order to be fit, you have to have this like extreme version, right? You got to be that Instagram influencer with a 14-pack, ripped biceps, legs that look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that's what fit looks like. And people look at that and the first thing I think is impossible. No way. There's no way I can do that. So what's the point, right? What's the point in doing it if I can't do it? But that's not the point, right? Because the things that we do with training, swimming, cycling, running, connecting with other people, meeting different, people along the way, expressing ourselves through fitness, you learn things, you grow, you cultivate relationships, you learn to love yourself, hopefully better. And if that phrase right there is confusing to you, if finding a way to love yourself through triathlon is confusing you because all it's done for you is cause you, more negative self-talk, then you're not doing it right. Something ain't working.
Yeah.
And it could be triathlon in general, but more than likely it's your approach to triathlon or most things you probably do.
Yeah. Well, I can speak for myself on like training, and you think about doing an Ironman, right? And if it's always about the time, right? Or at least in our minds, we're always wanting to get faster, which makes sense. I mean, it's on the clock. That's what we do. We think about that and everything. I keep thinking back to, maybe like the last full I did last year, where if I would have maybe, because you get to the water, right? And you're like, oh shit. Most people are like, oh God, this swim. All right. I got to get that. You're psyched up for the swim and you get out of it. It's kind of relief. And then you're like, shit, I got to go ride now for 6 and 7 hours and get through that. And then it's like you get off the bike, you're like, woo. And now all you got is a marathon, right? So, but what I keep thinking about a lot of times is if I could just even scale back my effort 5% in the swim and the bike, for example, how much more enjoyable that day might be. But I'm always, I think I'm a little bit cursed because that first Ironman you coached me to, I went down sub 12 on my, in my 50s. And I've always got this target.
I ruined you, dude. I ruined you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like this target we always have, but it's like, so like I can't even think about doing this Ironman sometimes without that in my head, and even better. So I'm like, damn, man. So I can't really go out there and have fun with, and that sort of trickles into training too, right? You can't just go out and enjoy some stuff. I was watching this somehow, how you get tricked into videos on YouTube, and I was watching this bodybuilder was saying all his cardio is just walking. And he was trying to say how it's more effective than doing crazy cardio, and how he does it up to his shows and whatever. But, he was just pointing out shit like, I always just park as far away from the grocery as I can. I get all my walking in. I'm always walking, and sets breaks during the day to get up and walk around the house when there's computer and stuff like that. But like that stuff seems so boring and so like ineffective. But like here we are, most people won't do it because, or any kind of cardio like walking or just easy jogging, because they don't think it works, but it does, and it helps you. It's just so much more enjoyable when you get done with an easy, like truly easy workout once in a while. But everything has to kind of amp up, It's like, I feel really good. I'm going to go up a notch, go up another notch. And the next thing you know, you're just digging yourself a hole. So I don't know, man. It's sort of just like 1 is good, 2 is all right, 2 is better, 3 is great. And now you just keep trying to get the higher buzz or the higher high of everything. And we can't walk away from shit ever, it seems like.
Dude, you said that so well. It's like our overreaching and overcommitting becomes our standard, right? And then we accept it, not because that's actually where we should be, but what we've come to expect. Therefore, you're setting yourself up to fail on a daily basis for 2 reasons. 1, you're never going to succeed by overreaching, right, and overcommitting. And then you're going to feel like a failure because you never go that far. Then it was perfectly said, like, because you set yourself up for success by doing, like, think about, going back to like what we do with training, minimal effective dose. That's it. Think if we took that think about if we took that approach to life, minimal effective dose every single day. We do it with training. Like that's how we train people. Minimal effective dose, not, all right, well, 40 minutes to get the job done. I'm going to give you 50. I mean, because athletes already think that way. Yeah, a little bit longer today, coach. Grinding it out, man. Fine. Way to waste 5 minutes. Like, go back inside, take a shower.
Way to waste 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like, waste it. But just like, well, what, you didn't get anything. You didn't get nearly what you got out of it, right? Take a little bit of extra time to yourself in the morning, a little bit more peace and quiet. But it's, we do, but think if we had that approach to everything else in life. Like, do we really need to schedule that or to do that, or can we just not, right? But triathletes like to add in, like, well, if 16 hours is good, 25 hours is better. If 60-minute run is good, 80 minutes is even better, right? If that last interval was good enough at 1 minute, I'm gonna see if I can go one more zone up in 3 minutes longer. That'll be better. What the ever happened to just good enough? I know we say this a lot, especially the last few months, is that that grade is the enemy of good, and the pursuit or the mirage that is perfection or greatness oftentimes leads people to going down a path of total epic failure and burnout, because your expectations are so high that you pulled out of thin air, right? And you're never going to get there, so you quit, and then you do nothing. And it's this. You have to be, everything has to be great or shouldn't be done at all. Like, a lot of times just getting it done is freaking great, right? Because some days you're like, man, how did I get all that done today? And you're like, yeah, I got it done, right? And then you're like, oh, well, I should have done this better. And that's the immediate thing we do. Is like,
it is totally.
You're like, oh, I could have done it quicker. How do I do it better? How do I do it faster? How can I be better? And yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said in the pursuit of, challenging yourself and never settling. I think there's a healthy piece in that. But within that, you have to also find the wins along the way and make sure you're on a path that is healthy. And if you're not on that path and you're self-coaching or following a training plan or whatever it is, and you find yourself resenting things and feeling bad and run down and then also like feeling bad that you find yourself liking something different or liking, adding something else in, like, we do this for fun. Yeah, performance is great. PRs are awesome. Getting fit is super cool. But we do this because it's good for us and it should be fun, right? So every time you're not having fun, something is wrong, right? Something is wrong.
Yep.
No, yeah, should it be fun running 60 minutes in 110-degree heat? No. But you know what you did wrong? You didn't get your ass up at 5 o'clock in the morning and run before it got hot. So there you go. It's like, I know it can't always be avoided, but it's just one of those things I think we should always ask ourselves.
Or slow down,
Yeah.
If you get, like, that's what I try to do is when I get out there in the heat, I got to remember that, man, because it's a trick, right? You can slowly feel good about mile 3 and be like, yeah, I got it. This heat ain't anything. And then 2 miles later, it's like, bam, hit you hard because you're trying to push it too hard. And, it's always something else, there's always something that we want to grab. And, a lot of times I get athletes coming into the club or a new athlete or something, and they'll have, like a pre-bought training plan in there. And the first couple of times I saw them, I go, what the hell is this? Some kind of like science novel, because it's like got 8,000 things in there and everything. And I'm like, wow, man, there's like explanations and like things that go on and on and on. And it's amazing. It takes up like the whole screen 1 week, just fills it up because there's so many boxes in every day. And I'm like, man, that seems confusing. I can't even dig into there. So a lot of times it's just, for me, it always goes back to this negative space or white space, when you kind of keep things simple, man, and just keep doing it in a way that feels good. It's such a hard thing to get out. And I know I talked about this a lot when I was getting training my first couple of years, and I'd always go for those swims, and sometimes they just feel like a real long one, and I'd be like, do I got this in me to finish this? Yes. All right, I'm walking away with 500 too short or whatever, just because I felt like sometimes if I did go over that envelope, it might put me in a jam, so I just think that's like you're saying, that I felt good, so I added 10 more minutes today or whatever. And I think that those are real fine lines, because you really got to understand what that means. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Because it's in the big scope of the whole plan, right? Yeah, today you do feel it, but what's tomorrow? What's the next couple days? Is that 10 minutes going to be worth it? Or is that extra mile of running in heat going to take just enough out of you to affect the next few days? And I think that's one of the hardest parts about training, is to really just sort of always leave a reserve on the table for what's coming.
I think it's a great kind of rule of thumb, and I have to remind myself of this frequently, that every workout you do should pretty much be treated like you're about to be sick. So what I mean by that is, so when I feel like I have like, like you said before we went on air, like a tickle in my throat, or like I get kind of congested, and I can kind of feel like I really do feel like I'm super in tune with my body, and I know when I'm about to get sick, or I know I'm fighting off something. Like, I just know the telltale signs. I make sure I do one thing every day. Do something for 30 minutes. And I do that because I want to raise my core temp. But what I don't do is raise my core temp for 30 minutes. And like, so I'll go out and I'll run super easy for like 20 minutes. And then I'll do like 2 1-minute pickups, just enough to get my heart rate up to like zone 4 and hopefully kill off whatever's going on in my body, or at least raise my core temp up pretty good. But I don't go do a 10K all out.
Yeah.
Right? Because then I would be overdoing it, and then I would be actually weakening my immune system, my body's ability to fight whatever else is going off. Like, what I really want to do is just bring to attention, whatever's going on in my body, and see if my body can't fix it. And it usually honestly does. That usually works for me. I'm obviously not a doctor. But that's how every workout should be approached, right? I want to do just enough, right? Just enough to get it done, not overdo it. And I think it's funny, because we often like only pay really, really, really close attention to our body when things are really bad or really good. I think we should, if we would just pay more attention each time, to our bodies in general, we probably wouldn't have those massive extremes and or get worried, or if think it's like, man, if you just listen to your body the first time, trying to tell you something, but you're too stubborn, you probably wouldn't get yourself in that situation. So yeah, it's about listening, and just trying to do the best thing for your body and your mind each and every day that you choose to train.
Yeah. Well, you're playing, like, that's a chess move versus checkers move. Like, a lot of times if you're going to be like, screw this ain't coming into my body, you're going to go out and blast a 10K and try and beat the shit out of it, rather than just kind of like you're saying, make it aware. I mean, all right, I'm aware of this. We're turning things up a notch, but not all the way. Just to kind of. Or
I also don't just sit on my ass all day.
Right.
Right. Like I do just a little bit, and again, there's some, papers out there about raising your core temp and stuff like that that'll help fight off, illnesses and stuff. But I always try to do something, because I feel like it does a few things. It brings things to attention, but it also gives me an opportunity to really assess how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And if I like go up for 30 minutes, I don't feel that bad, I feel pretty good, I'm like, all right, I'm on the right track. I can get back on and do it tomorrow. But you can't know who you are unless you're by doing nothing. But if I go out there and it's like, heart rate's 15 beats, 20 beats too high, then I do nothing. The next day I'm like, all right, maybe the next day I do nothing, and then I'll reassess the next day. You can't go to extremes, by definition. Just don't do extreme one way or extreme another way.
Yeah. Just eat a little piece of cake. Not the whole thing.
Just eat a little piece of cake and then go clean
like
out your
cake,
oatmeal,
man. I'm going to eat this whole damn thing. You know?
Dude, I've been there. I took down on my birthday, I had, I have a titanium piece, like titanium radial head in my elbow. I got undercut playing basketball, and I had surgery on my birthday. And used to be a huge Lakers fan back when the NBA was awesome. And on my birthday, Mom got me this like sweet ice cream cake from Baskin Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
resist.
What'd you say?
Hard to resist.
Oh yeah, super hard to resist. And one of the most underrated cakes on the planet is the ice cream cake. And
I don't know.
Oh, stop it. I was, I was on at least like 2 Valium for the pain. And I was watching the Lakers get beat by 40 by the Celtics in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. They call it the massacre at the Garden, or they call it. They annihilated the Lakers. I ate the whole cake, the whole thing. I ate the entire thing.
Stuffing your emotions, man.
Yeah, I was eating through my pain. I was eating through my emotions. Watching Kobe lose, it was a rough one, man. Plus watching fucking Kevin Garnett. Yeah, but no, I know all about eating the whole cake, man. And chunk cookies, yeah, been there. I know how to do it, man. I got an addictive personality already. I can take them down with the best of them.
Yeah. Well, I think that the one thing we can say about that was like you're in your feelings. You're in maybe it was your birthday, but maybe you didn't have a lot of close friends there saying, hey, that's enough cake, man.
They were all looking at me in disgust, like that guy's having a rough time. Just let him. They're like, just let him have his day. Let him have his day. He's gonna regret this tomorrow. He'd probably be constipated for a month. Let him have his day. Yeah. Just let him have his day. We'll deal with it tomorrow. And that's how your friends would be. But true friends tap you on the shoulder and they're like, hey, let's leave a few pieces for tomorrow, because then you wake up tomorrow, you got no cake to eat, and you just feel like shit. Mm-hmm. We hope this podcast is your cake, and that you consume it. Slice or slice 2 at a time. Yeah. Just not 4 or 5, because you probably get tired of us. We love you all. We appreciate you tuning in and listening and being a part of our awesome community. As always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. Click on the coaching tab if you're looking for help the remainder of the year, especially if you're struggling, especially if you're down, especially if you're not having fun anymore. Reach out to somebody, and hopefully we can help you out. And as always, Mike is available. He's at CrushingIron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me specifically, c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. Well, wish me luck this weekend.
All right, good luck. I will be awaiting the decision on Monday. You thought LeBron James had the decision? Wait till next Monday when Mike Tarrolly announces via the decision on ESPN2 if he's doing Ironman Wisconsin 70.3, or Sherpa duties.
Maybe. I don't know if I'll do it live on Facebook like I did that one year. That was like one of the biggest.
I remember that.
I had the hats out and deciding on which Ironman I was going to do. That was kind of fun.
You're the man.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to go up and have fun riding that. I love riding that course. I just want to find that love. That's all I want to do. All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up, huh? Maybe next time we'll talk about that new podcast you discovered, or my new, or your new discovery on my favorite guy.
Yes, we will. I'll have more in depth to go. I know I shocked you. I shocked your pants off this morning with my Wim Hof.
Yeah, he's into Wim Hof? No, evidently. But no,
Run
quickly.
Camp, November. We're doing the polar plunge.
You're plunging with us? Now. All right, that's my boy. Yeah, but, like I was saying, man, quickly. I will say that you say you go out and you try and raise your core temp a little bit with something easy and short. My thing is always like if I feel like I'm down or something's going on, I just try to do the Wim Hof breathing and like get the oxygen moving into my body and get the tension out and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of works for me really well. It has for years, actually.
Hey, you don't look 40 for a reason.
Thank you, buddy.
I mean, you do look 40 for a reason. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. you look 40 for a reason.
Yeah. Yep. Got to keep it young somehow. Yeah, keep working that body in ways that the body likes. All right. We'll see you later.
Yeah, go work that body, people.